Thank you so much. It is a great honor and pleasure to introduce and recognize my good friend Maya Wiley, President and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, as the recipient of this year's Thurgood Marshall Award from the American Bar Association. In recognizing Maya Wiley, we celebrate not only her past achievements, but also the promise of a fairer future. She reminds us that meaningful progress demands courage, creativity, and an unwavering moral compass. Before I say more about Maya, I want to say a few words about the ABA and lawyers in this moment in our nation's history. If there is anything we know for sure right now, it's that lawyers are needed more than ever to secure the promises of liberty and justice for which Justice Marshall fought so tirelessly during his entire life. Thurgood Marshall took up the cause of the persecuted, the unpopular, and the marginalized in our society when progress seemed far distant, if it even seemed possible at all. The forces of society were arrayed against him and his clients, but he and his colleagues persisted year after year, clear-eyed in their vision of the United States as a republic where democracy and the rule of law prevailed, and where our justice system recognized equality, the dignity of the individual, and fairness as fundamental principles. Progress was slow, halting, and certainly not always linear. They suffered many setbacks along the way. But we know for sure that our society is vastly better because a group of dedicated lawyers refused to accept the state of things that were and do nothing about them. Today, we face a situation that many of us thought unimaginable, although Thurgood Marshall, wise man that he was, probably did not. We meet today at a time when litigants who aim to hold the government accountable to the Constitution are being punished by the government, and government compliance with court orders is not a given. Judges are being threatened and singled out for their rulings. Civil rights are being systematically dismantled across industries as history is being erased from our government and cultural institutions. And the independence of the legal profession is being actively undermined as law firms are targeted and threatened with retributive executive orders. This is a defining moment for our country and for our profession. We all knew that progress is fragile, but it seemed inconceivable that a century's worth of achievements in law and justice could be put in grave peril in a short time. It's not just that fundamental principles of civil rights are being rolled back, as we saw most dramatically in the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. Much more than that, we are seeing the fragility of the rule of law itself. And if anyone is essential to standing up for the rule of law, it is lawyers. For if lawyers will not defend the rule of law, who will? That is why, as we meet here, we can note with gratitude that the American Bar Association, the voice and conscience of the nation's lawyers, has been outspoken in its defense. The ABA has made clear the government may not punish lawyers for representing clients and causes with which it disagrees. And then we look to a recent decision that a case was titled, amazingly, American Bar Association versus Department of Justice. Because the ABA had spoken out and sued the government to challenge its freeze on foreign assistance grants to promote the rule of law, the government terminated the ABA's grants to help those in the justice system who work with survivors of sexual assault. The ABA and its 400,000 members may have been the most direct target of this funding cut, but those who suffer are the most vulnerable people in our society, as well as the justice system and the rule of law. As challenging as this period is, it has been clarifying about the importance of lawyers defending the Constitution and the rule of law. In the ABA's lawsuit against DOJ, the district court entered a preliminary injunction and recognized that the government's arguments in support of its retaliation were not likely to prevail. And as Judge Beryl Howell wrote in her ruling blocking the executive order targeting Perkins Coie, if the founding of this country is any guide, those who stood up in court to vindicate constitutional rights and by doing so served to promote the rule of law will be the models lauded when this period of American history is written. Which brings me to Maya Wiley. Since May of 2022, Maya Wiley has served as president and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights and its Education Fund, the nation's largest and most diverse civil rights coalition, encompassing over 240 organizations. It's an organization I know well, having been her predecessor. Under Maya's leadership, the organization has continued its 75-year legacy of forging bipartisan coalitions and shaping policies on voting rights, criminal justice reform, economic equity, technology and artificial intelligence, and much more. Maya's leadership reflects a deeply personal and professional commitment to justice. Born into a family of activists, her father, George Wiley, founded the National Welfare Rights Organization. She's brought her own legal expertise to bear at institutions including the ACLU, NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. She also co-founded the Center for Social Inclusion, working at the intersection of race, poverty, and environmental justice. And as the first Black woman counsel to the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, she helped deliver on civil and immigrants' rights. Maya's bio is extremely impressive. But what I love most about Maya is her straight talk, her ability to cut to the meat of the matter, and her willingness to pour her heart and soul into the hardest fights of our day. She refuses to engage despair. She understands hope and courage are contagious. I watched her maneuver meetings at the Justice Department when I was Associate Attorney General, where she at once uplifted our leadership while making clear where we needed to do more and better. She was a master at those meetings, and other civil rights leaders looked to her to set the tone and be concrete about the asks. It is awfully hard to run the nation's largest civil rights coalition at a time of such peril, but all of us who care about the rule of law, about protecting vulnerable communities and standing up to lawlessness, owe Maya Wiley a debt of gratitude for being tireless in her pursuit of justice. Maya, thank you, my friend, for all you do for all of us. And congratulations on this most well-deserved award.
Hello. It's a pleasure to join so many public servants, members of the legal community, distinguished scholars, and good friends to celebrate an extraordinary lawyer, activist, and citizen, my friend Maya Wiley. And how very fitting it is that she is the 2025 recipient of the Thurgood Marshall Award. You know, the life of Justice Thurgood Marshall is one of exceptional scope and breathtaking progress. The law school applicant rejected because of his race went on to bring down legalized segregation. The great-grandson of a slave and the son of a steward at a whites-only country club became a justice of the United States Supreme Court. He was a brilliant lawyer who never lost sight of the impact of the law and the meaning of its protection for the people it serves. And so it is with Maya. That impact is real and something we see demonstrated throughout Maya's career. You know, there's a lot of space between what is and what ought to be. And that is why we must operate with the understanding that justice is not an abstract theory. It's a living and breathing principle. It's about how our laws impact our daily experiences and whether we live up to our promise as a nation and as a people. Maya understands this and has dedicated her career to advance opportunity and to ensure justice for all. Under her leadership, we have made important progress and laid the groundwork for more to come. But this struggle is far from over. Critical work remains unfinished, and it is a sad reality that in some areas we are in danger of turning backwards. Today we face a backlash of bigotry that has turned diversity, equity, and inclusion into a slur. We face a slew of voting restrictions and gerrymanders across the country that have attempted to weaken voting rights, especially among Black Americans and communities of color. We face a Supreme Court that has been packed with situational originalists who have waved away decades of precedent and plain language. These are real injustices. We cannot ignore them, and we certainly must not accept them. Instead, we have to let ourselves feel them and then fight for that which is right. This nation has made progress for nearly 2.5 centuries, not by some inevitable hand of fate, but by the actions of extraordinary, regular people like Justice Marshall and like Maya, who saw something wrong and committed themselves to making it right. Generation after generation, this country has been built, rebuilt, enriched, and improved both by and for the people. And that slow progress has transformed real lives. It's an idea that Justice Marshall well understood, that each of us has a claim to a fair and equitable country, and each of us has a responsibility to make that country real. So as we take this moment to honor Maya, I call on all of you here to recommit yourselves to Justice Marshall's legacy by speaking out on voting rights for every person in every community, by pressing for equality of opportunity in every situation and in every circumstance, by lending a hand to people who are too often let down, left out, and left behind, by answering the call to march towards justice and the more perfect union that he helped to imagine. Maya, congratulations and thank you. Thank you for your passion and for your commitment, and thank you for all that you do so effectively to achieve our nation's promise. You're simply the best.
Good evening. I am Janai S, President and Director-Counsel of the Legal Defense Fund, the nation's first and foremost legal institution fighting for racial justice. Before I begin, I want to thank the leadership of the section of Civil Rights and Social Justice for having the courage and conviction to move this year's celebration online out of an abundance of caution. These past several months have tested those of us who have committed ourselves to advancing civil rights and social justice in unprecedented ways. Events like this one, where we can celebrate our wins, support one another in spite of our losses, and recharge for the myriad battles ahead, are absolutely critical. And tonight is a reminder that despite how lonely and isolating the never-ending work of transforming this nation into one that lives up to its principles and ideals can feel, we are not and never will be in this fight alone. As the 8th President and Director-Counsel of LDF, being invited to deliver remarks during this year's Thurgood Marshall celebration is my distinct honor for a number of reasons. For one, 2025 marks 85 years since LDF was founded under Thurgood Marshall's visionary leadership. Thanks to his fortitude and the foundation he laid, every generation since our founding, LDF has supported by playing an integral role in the efforts to realize the full citizenship, rights, and dignity of Black people in America. But this most auspicious anniversary year, unfortunately, also coincides with a disturbingly somber, disheartening, and indeed alarming moment for our democracy and the rule of law. And given that urgency, I am so humbled to be among those addressing what this moment means for us on the front lines of efforts to defeat tyranny. But most importantly, we are here tonight to celebrate and honor Maya Wiley, the 2025 recipient of the Thurgood Marshall Award. And it is because of and thanks to foot soldiers for justice like Maya that the road ahead feels less daunting. And tonight, we have an opportunity to formally induct her into the pantheon of inheritors of Justice Marshall's profound legacy of fighting for change within a system that was built to resist it. As her peer, not only as the leader of a civil rights organization, but as a Black woman on the front lines of that work, that often serves as a painful reminder of how cruelly the law and our society have long considered both Blackness and womanhood. I am often in awe of the grace with which she navigates this work. I'm inspired by her unyielding determination to ensure justice is applied fairly. But the obligation to adhere to Justice Marshall's charge to make our democracy, protect our democracy, and pass those protections on to the next generation is not Maya's alone as the 2025 Marshall Award recipient. It is all of ours. So tonight, as we give Maya her much-deserved flowers, let's also use this moment to recommit to the critical charge we have as civil rights advocates, to use the legal system to achieve justice, freedom, and equality for all. As the descendants of legal practitioners who upended systems of oppression and changed this nation, we must heed the call to seek freedom and liberation for everyone. And that begins with stalwart leadership like Maya's that is unwavering, uncompromising, and undeterred. You know, Maya and I share a mentor in Elaine Jones, who, among countless other accolades, was the first woman to serve as president and director counsel of LDF. And something Elaine has often said is that it is our obligation to make the Constitution live. The beauty of our multiracial democracy is that we each have a role to play in making it work for the collective. But the unique role that we play as civil rights lawyers is that we have both the expertise and the stamina to transform this nation with a transformative vision. My friends, we know that progress is neither linear nor static. Each generation must actively choose forward movement over retrenchment. Every generation must not only decide that reliving the mistakes of our past is not worth it, but we must take the necessary steps to ensure that future generations can build on the foundation we have laid. America will change, whether we like it or not. But as civil rights advocates, we must draw upon the legacies of Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley and Jack Greenberg and Pauli Murray and countless others who believed in the unbelievable. They held a vision for what was possible and made it real. They put their faith in the elusive American dream, that lofty notion that we are all endowed with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that each of us is entitled by mere fact of our birth in the United States of America to unbridled access to opportunity. I still believe in that dream. LDF still believes in that dream. I know that Maya still believes in that dream, because if these United States are to persist, it is a project every American must shape, not just in their likeness, but in the likeness and image of a nation no one has ever seen before. And I, for one, am not only grateful, but energized by the fact that when I look to my left and my right on the battlefield for justice, I will see all of you. I will see tonight's honoree, Maya Wiley. And I find deep comfort in the fact that none of us are in this work alone. And together, we will win back our future. Thank you, and congratulations, Maya.